Main story that we're bringing you this morning on Breakfast is that a family living in Norwich have been telling us about their fears that they're going to be left destitute because their disability benefits were stopped. Andrew Day has cerebral palsy, which severely restricts his speech and mobility. Since January, the Department for Work and Pensions have told him they needed to assess whether he should keep getting benefits. Now, since then, Andrew and his wife Naomi say the assessment centre have cancelled 5 appointments. The latest assessment fell as Andrew happened to be in hospital needing major surgery, so of course he couldn't turn up for that assessment. And all that meant last Friday the payment they were expecting from the DWP didn't turn up in his account.
Received a phone call to say, sorry, we've had to cancel it because there's no access for your wheelchair to come into the building. We've had cancellations because they've lost the paperwork. We've had cancellations because they haven't had somebody there. There's been people sick. And we've never actually, until he went into hospital, had to cancel any of the assessments. They've always been cancelled on their part. We sent the paperwork in to explain that he was going to hospital. The person I originally spoke to was quite accepting of that and said that he may not need to be seen. They subsequently said he was not eligible for any home visit coming out of hospital. They could not see him in hospital, and technically, unless he turned up for the assessment, our money would be stopped.
Well, Naomi Day talking to me at her house on Monday, explaining how assessments for her husband's disability benefits had been cancelled numerous times. Now, the Department for Work and Pensions payment didn't come through last week when it was expected. Alarm bells rang for Andrew and Naomi. They feared the benefits had been stopped. So we contacted the DWP on their behalf, and late yesterday they provided us with a statement. We'll call it a statement. It is just one line. It says, having looked into Mr Day's case, we can now reassure him that his ESA and PIP have both been paid. So the money has been paid, but we spoke to Naomi again earlier on this morning, and she has not had any direct communication from the DWP. Let's talk to Mark Harrison, who's from the disability campaign group Equal Lives. Thanks for coming in this morning, Mark. How typical is the story you've just heard from Naomi and Andrew Day?
Unfortunately, this is very typical, and it's a disgrace. The United Nations last week, the week before last rather, described the way the government is treating disabled people as a human catastrophe. And their investigation and their report says that there are grave and systematic violations going on in the UK of disabled people's rights. And this is just a very clear example of that. But it's by no means unusual.
Is the main problem in amongst all this communication? Because, as we've just said, we contacted the DWP yesterday. They looked at Andrew's case and quite quickly said, oh yeah, he should have his money, and it happened. But still, Naomi and Andrew haven't heard directly from the DWP, and through this process have had lots of problems trying to get hold of the right people to ask the questions to. And is that where the main fault of this comes down to?
It's multifaceted. I mean, the main problem is that benefit sanctions, removing people's money from them, which they're entitled to, has become government policy. So hundreds of thousands of people are being sanctioned for very minor offences, like not their sick note hasn't turned up on time. And that can happen, and Naomi and Andrew sent in a sick note and the DWP said they couldn't find it. But for that infringement, to lose your only means of feeding your family, paying your bills, is huge. And there's an academic that's done a study and compared people who have been found guilty in the criminal justice system and welfare benefit sanctions, and people in the criminal justice system who are found guilty of a crime are treated less harshly than people who are claiming benefits. So the demonisation of disabled people and people who claim benefits by this government in order to justify a brutal regime that leaves a family without food over a weekend beggars belief.
You will know as well as I do, and I'm sure you'll be frustrated at the fact that some people do claim benefits fraudulently. So you would assume you would accept that there has to be something in place to cut down on that, and surely that's what this is, rather than being anything malicious.
Well, this isn't about fraud, and the government's own figures show that disability benefits, the fraud level is 0.01%, which is minuscule. So it's not an issue about fraud. This is about a broken system where they've outsourced the work capability assessments that decide if you get benefits to a private American company called Maximus. They routinely overbook their appointments. So Andrew has had 4 appointments since Christmas cancelled. They overbook appointments and then cancel at the last minute. That's distressing for everybody, but particularly people with mental health issues. And Naomi mentioned this in the thing. It raises people's stress levels and people give up in the process. And that's really concerning, that we have people that are eligible for benefits, that need benefits because they can't work, because of various disabilities. But they are either treated so badly in the process or through the process that they give up. At the other end, the people that appeal, over 75% of people that we support at Equal Lives through the appeal process are successful. If we had that rate of failure in the criminal justice system, in the courts, we would be seen as a tin pot dictatorship with no rule of law. But there's a separate system going on for people who claim benefits that's hidden away, and you've just shone a light on it. But this is the experience of hundreds of thousands of people weekly across the country.
There's lots to go at in what you said there, Mark, but I think the most interesting thing, or the thing that I found most interesting, this trend of people's assessments being cancelled, not by them. Tell me a bit more about that. It's happened 4 or 5 times to Andrew and Naomi. You turn up, or you're even going out of the door to go to an assessment, and then you find that it's been cancelled by the people who are supposed to be assessing you. So you're telling me this is happening a lot? Absolutely.
Maximus routinely overbook their appointments, and then if everybody turns up, they send say 4 people, they send 3 people away. I've been down at St Mary's House, as you know, for the last 4 years because we were campaigning because it wasn't accessible to disabled people. They've rectified that now. But we've had people come out saying, this is the 4th time I've been sent away from here, and people phone Equal Lives the whole time saying Maximus are overbooking, and then they're sending us away, or they're phoning us at the last minute when we've taken a time off or whatever, and changed our arrangements so that we can go to the appointment. So it's an institutional dysfunction, it's an institutional failure. But Maximus have been awarded an uplift in their contract. They're getting a lot more money for very poor performance.
All right, Mark. Well, I think this is an issue that we'll look at in more detail, but thanks for coming in and giving us your take on that. Mark Harrison from the Disability Campaign Group Equal Lives, thanks for coming in and telling us about that this morning.
Thank you, Chris.
If it's something that you have got experience of, and as I mentioned, there's lots to go at here, but particularly the aspect of these assessments being cancelled at short notice, if that's something that's happened to you, then do get in touch with us. Let us know, because Mark has said there it's something that does happen a lot. If you can let us know about that when it does happen to you, then of course it's easier for us to go to the powers that be and say, look, we've got all these people that are telling us it. So let us know what's happened with you. 01603 617 321, that's the phone number. Norwich 617 321. Send me a text, H1333, start your message with the word Norfolk, and you'll be charged at your standard message rate.